I'm the assistant state engineer over adjudications, working for the Division of Water Rights, which is synonymous as the office of the state engineer. I'm not sure whether to apologize or say you're welcome for keeping you from the presidential debates tonight, but especially with that going on, thanks again for being here, or you're welcome. I'm not sure. But yeah, so we're all here tonight to discuss the commencement of the Eastland Subdivision adjudication, which we sent out summons to everybody, sent out those mailing packets, which is why you're here. So, like I said, I'm Chase McDonald. With me today, I've got Mark Stilson, who some of you may know, he's the regional engineer over the Southeastern region. I also have one of my engineer managers, Chris Stallard, over here operating the camera. And then in the back, I have Skylar Bishop, one of our hydrologic scientists, and Michael Ferguson with the Attorney General's office. So to get started here, I'll just go over the agenda. So first, I'm sure all of you are wondering, what is this summons? Why did I get this summons? So we'll address that first. Then I'll discuss what an adjudication is and what a water right is. After that, we'll go through the adjudication process to kind of give you a better idea of what's going to happen moving forward, give you our best guess or our best hope for the timeline of how all this is going to work. And then we'll open it up for questions. And I will also walk through a little bit of a tour of our website to help you see how to navigate that as we work through this. So first of all, the summons. I'm sure it's worded pretty, it sounds kind of intimidating, right? We apologize for that. It's a requirement in statute for us to send out that summons, and that's really just saying, hey, we're getting this started. It's sent to all known water right owners and property owners within the subdivision boundary. We also published it in the local newspaper, and we do this. Number one, it's a requirement by law for us to send that summons, but we're trying to reach out to as many people as we can who may be a potential claimant for a water right in this area, because we want everybody to be able to participate. So we'll talk now about what actually is a general adjudication. So it's, in its simplest terms, it's an action in the state district court. It binds all the water users and the state engineer in the same action, and it's really just meant to determine the nature and extent of the uses of water within that subdivision. The way I think about it, it's maybe not technically correct, but it's kind of a court function that updates all the water rights in the area and brings any water rights that are not of record onto the record. And it's, as it says there on the slide, it's governed by Title 73, Chapter 4 of the Utah State Code. So when I say, the summons was a requirement of the law, it's in that chapter that discusses that. So before we go through the process, I think it's important to understand a little bit of a history lesson in why adjudications are conducted. So Utah became a state in 1896, but the area was settled in 1847. So there was about 50 years of development between when settlers got here and when we became a state. As you might imagine, as soon as settlers got here, they found ways to divert and use the water. So when Utah became a state, Article 17 of the Utah Constitution, I'll read it here. It says, all existing rights to the use of any of the waters in the state for any useful and beneficial purpose are hereby recognized and confirmed. So that's saying, okay, we're a state now. Any water that has been used, any water rights that have been established are recognized, but they were never quantified. And the adjudication process was created as a means to go out and kind of investigate all these, like the whole state, but piece by piece, to bring all of those rights on the record and define them. Okay, so that's the basis. That's how general adjudications came to be. And that's that first bullet point there, bring all claims onto the permanent record. And so a lot of these that we see are pre-statutory claims. So on the slide here, I've got diligence claims and underground water claims. So even though we became a state in 1896, the first laws that required water rights or claims to be on the record was in 1903, and the law was passed saying, okay, all the rights or all the claims to divert and beneficially use surface water are now required to be on the record with the state engineer. Later in 1935, that was expanded to say, okay, this includes groundwater. So before 1903 or before 1935, before 1903, you could just divert surface water, claim it, and use it. Before 1935, you could drill a well and just use water from that well. But after those dates, it became required to put those on the record with the state engineer. And so we're trying to get caught up with that, right? We're trying to pull everything on the record, like I was saying earlier. And with these general adjudications, we're trying to bring more clarity to the water rights in an area. And I guess I skipped over the Federal Reserve rights. So Federal Reserve rights are not, I don't think they're all that applicable to this subdivision, but I'll just touch on this kind of for your information. But the Renters Doctrine essentially established that when the federal government sets aside a piece of ground for an Indian reservation or something like that, then implicitly sufficient water to satisfy the purposes of the uses on that land should have been set aside. So if you're here for the public meeting, come on in. Not to put you on the spot, but come on in, make yourself comfortable. So then the McCarran Amendment was to bring the federal government into the state adjudication actions. The federal government typically doesn't participate in state court actions, but the McCarran amendments were saying, no, federal government, you are going to participate in these state-based actions. And so the second to last point here is where we get a lot of the concern, a lot of the questions, because we are looking to remove and reduce rights which have been forfeited through non-use. And so I want to explain a little bit of the premise of that, because a lot of people say, oh, the state's coming trying to take my water. That's not our intent. We're trying to update the record. We're trying to go out and define these water rights. And there is a portion of statute that says if a water right has not been exercised for a period of 7 consecutive years, it is subject to forfeiture. And so to explain a little bit of the why behind that is because water in the state is owned by the people. And then it's not owned by the state, it's owned by the people. And when you have a water right, you get the right to divert and use that water beneficially because it's a public resource that we all need, right? So the point of that is to prevent speculation. It's to prevent somebody from saying, I'm going to apply or acquire all the water rights in this area, drive up the prices, and then everybody has to come to me with the water. So we say, you have a right to use the water, but you have to actually put it to beneficial use, or it should be available for somebody else. So that's the premise behind that, the removal of rights that have not been used. And then the end goal of the adjudication is to get final comprehensive decrees on all of the water rights within an area. So that's a short history lesson on what we're actually doing, how adjudications came to be. So now that we've gone through that, we'll talk about what actually is a water right. The basic answer is a water right is a right to divert and beneficially use water. There are several aspects of a water right, and the definition, the basis, and the limit of a water right is its beneficial use, the nature of beneficial use. So that's the most important component of a water right. There's also a priority date, which is usually when that water was first put to beneficial use. There's a quantity of water, whether it's a flow rate or a volume amount, and then a place of beneficial use. So, and the point of diversion. So where is it being taken from? where is it being used, how much is being taken, and when was it first used. So those are the basic components of a water right. There are no, to my understanding, there are no irrigation companies that service this subdivision. So that bottom point where a water right is not a share in an irrigation company, I don't think that's much of an issue in this area. But a lot of people worry, okay, I hear about this adjudication. I hear that if I don't file a claim, then I'm barred from asserting a water use in the future. So what if the city gives me water? What if I get it from the municipality? We will work with the municipality to adjudicate their water rights. It's not like we're going to say, okay, city provides you water, you didn't file a claim, so return your water out. That's the municipality owns a water right and they provide it to their customers, right? So that's the very basics of a water right. And what I want you to get out of that is that the basis of a water right is its beneficial use. So this was in that summons packet, but again, just to show you the subdivision boundary, and just so I don't mess it up, I'm just going to read the description here. So the Eastland Subdivision comprises the natural hydrologic drainage of the upper Montezuma Creek tributaries, consisting of Boulder Canyon, Pearson Wash, Long Drop Canyon, and Cottonwood Canyon Coal Creek. It also includes the groundwater underlying that area, right, as we discussed. So some statistics on there. On our records, we have 133, 134 water rights that plot in that area. And we identified 359 landowners in that area. Most of the water rights that we have on record are underground water wells. But that's the boundary. Most of you, all of you, I hope, if you're here, either own a water right or own land within that boundary. So moving on, now we'll talk about the actual process. So this slide gives, there's 15 little boxes up there. And is my head in the way? Should I move so you guys can see, or are you good? You can see over? There's no glare? Okay, all right. Then I'll stay here. So we've broken it down. We like to think of it as 3 different phases. So there's the very first phase right now. We're just commencing. We're just getting started. But the green color there shows the first phase. And we'll dive into each of these a little bit deeper. But this phase, we're at the public meeting, which is step number 4. The next phase is what we call the list of unclaimed rights. And then finally, we'll move on to the proposed determination and decree. So digging a little bit more into phase 1. So we have a petition, which every area in the state has completed a petition or another way to initiate an adjudication. The entire state is under a general adjudication, and there's several different ones throughout the state based on hydrologic boundaries. But that part's already been taken care of a long time ago. We did send out a notice of commencement in the local newspaper, and then we did send out that summons mailing packet letting you know, hey, we're getting this started. And that's what led everybody to today, the public meeting. The purpose of today is just to let you know, hey, introduce ourselves and then walk you through the process and kind of give you an idea of what's about to happen. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be accomplishing the last step in this phase, which is the notice to file claims. So you'll receive another mailing from our office saying, hey, here's your notice. It's time to file claims. You have 90 days to file a claim with our office. And it's very, very important. It's very important that you file a claim. If you're not sure if you have a water right, you can call us. You can still file a claim. It's more important that you file a claim that doesn't turn out to be a water right or whatever than if you don't file one. Because a claimant that does not participate may be prevented from asserting a claim in the future. This is what.
Before you go on, let me just mention that if you have an existing water right, we're going to actually send you a claim that's already filled out.
Yep, and that's this slide right here that I'm showing you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that though. It's
a well that you guys haven't got filled out.
I'm sorry, say again, sir.
What if it's a well that you guys haven't got the paperwork on?
If it's a well that we don't have the paperwork on is the question. I'm going to try to remember to repeat the questions because we're live streaming this and we're recording it to upload it later. So, yeah, we'll touch on that later. But basically, he's asking if somebody has a water right that is not on our records, we need to file a claim on that right, and that's perfectly segues into this slide. So you see there's two forms there, and I apologize, kind of a small TV for a room this size, but the water user claim form on the background is, if you can see it, it has a lot of blanks on it. The one in the foreground has actual information filled in. So if our records indicate, or if we're sending out a water user claim on a water right that is of record, then the document that we send out with the notice to file claims will be filled out with the attributes of that water right as they exist on our records. For everybody else who are landowners, we will send out a blank water user claim. Okay, so everybody will receive a water user claim in this mailing. It's just if you don't have a water right of record, then it'll be blank. Some people in here, I'm sure, will receive a filled out claim and a blank claim because you're a water right owner and a landowner, and so you'll probably get both of those mailings. So these water user claims, you can file them with the district court or you can file them with our office. I think our office is the easy button. Part of the main message that I want to get out today is that we are, believe it or not, we're the government. We're here to help. You know, but I mean that. I mean, we understand that this is a complex process. We really do want to help you out through this process, help you file your claim correctly, and help you work through this, you know, what can be a pretty confusing process. So you're welcome to file it with the district court if you want. My recommendation is file it with us so we can help you out, and then we will file all the claims that we receive. We will file them with the district court on your behalf. And so, and that's that second point, adjudication staff can help. We really do want to help. So if you have questions, contact us. You know, file the most important thing, file your claim. We can help you with that, as we'll talk about a little bit more. And then I already covered the state engineer will file the claim with the court on behalf of the water user as a courtesy. And there's no, I'm not sure about the court. I don't think there's a filing fee if you file it with the court. I know there's not a filing fee if you file it with us. So if there was a thought of, oh, you guys are going to, I'll file it with you, but you're going to charge me for it, we don't. There are some cases, and in preparation for this meeting, preparing to walk you through the website tour, I found a couple already. But there are some cases where a water rights status, a water right is not perfected, is what we call it. So it's not included in the adjudication effort. So that may be a case where you have a water right, you filed an application to appropriate, which we've approved but has not yet been certificated. I know I'm throwing a lot of terms at you, but we only adjudicate perfected water rights. Okay, so like I said, any questions like that, give us a call. We'll pull it up, we'll look at it, and we'll talk you through it and help you understand why it is or is not being included. Okay. And again, it's my understanding there aren't any irrigation companies that service this area, but irrigation company shareholders are mainly not required to file a claim. So this is, I'm still talking through that first phase, okay? So then now we're going to move on to the second phase, which is what we call the list of unclaimed rights and the final summons. So once all those claims are filed with our office, we will compile all those and we will say, okay, here's the water rights that we had on record. Here's the claims we received. There may be some water rights of record that did not have a claim filed on them. And so we will compile that list of unclaimed rights. We will submit that to the court along with all of the water rights or all the water user claims that we received. That will all go to the court at the same time. And then if there's a case where, and we will mail that list of unclaimed rights out to all of you. And so if you receive that list of unclaimed rights and you look at it and you think, oh, this is wrong, this shouldn't be on here, you can file an objection with the court. And there's a 90-day window to file that extension. And even then, if something happened and the claim didn't get filed and you see it on that list of unclaimed rights, that relief is through the court, but we can assist you with that as well and help you understand what that process looks like. So after we publish the list of unclaimed rights, you'll see our smiling faces back down here again, for better or for worse. We'll be here for a second public meeting. And so we'll have that public meeting, and then what we'll do is we'll do what we call the final summons. So we'll search all the records again to try to find, okay, when we first searched all the records, these are the people we found. Now we've published a list of unclaimed rights. But before we move on to decree this list of unclaimed rights or petition court to decree it, we want to do one more search to make sure there are no other claimants that we missed the first time around. So we'll do a final summons. We'll try to identify any new claimants that we didn't find the first time around. We'll summons them and give them a chance to participate. And then once that is done and once all the objections to the list of unclaimed rights are resolved, we'll petition the court to issue a decree on that list of unclaimed rights. Okay? So that's phase 2. And then moving on to phase 3, this is by far the most time consuming. But what we will do, we take in all those water user claims, and then we need to evaluate every single one of them that we get. So that entails a few different things. So first of all, we'll do a file review, because for every water right of record, we have a file up in Salt Lake City that has every document associated or that's been submitted to us that's associated with that water right number. Okay, so we call it a water right number. We also call it a file jacket number. It just refers to a file jacket that holds the documents for that water right or that claim. Okay, so we'll do a thorough file review. We'll look through all the historical documents for that claim, for that water right, and then we'll look at the claim that was submitted, and then we'll go out and we'll do a field review. We'll go out and we'll say, okay, this is what this water right has historically been approved for. This is what the claim says. Now we're going to go out and we want to look at it. We want to go out and say, okay, they said they have a well. We found a well. They said they have a 1/4 acre of irrigation. There's a 1/4 acre of irrigation. It's connected to a house. Perfect. So we'll come out and we'll take a look at it and just verify everything. After that, we will prepare what we call a state engineer's recommendation, which looks very similar to a water user claim, but that is our document that we've created. So you fill out the water user claim, submit that to us. We create a state engineer's recommendation based on the combined efforts of the file review, the field review, and the water user claim review. We'll create that state engineer's recommendation in a map, and that's essentially what the state engineer's recommendation is we fill that out, send that out to you. That's us saying this is what we think the best recommendation to the court is. And when we send that to you, that's still not the end of the road. Like I said, when I say we want to work with you, I mean it. When we send out that state engineer's recommendation, you can take a look at it. You can still give us a call and talk to us about if we missed something and we need to edit our recommendation, we can do so. And so once all of that is done, all the claims are reviewed, state engineer's recommendations are completed for all of those claims, we'll compile all of those state engineer's recommendations into a book called the proposed determination. And that will be submitted to the court. We will publish that with the court, and that is us saying, okay, we've evaluated all of this. This is our recommendation to the court of the status and the definition of all the water rights within this area. Okay? And so once we publish that proposed determination, and that will then be disseminated, then you still have an opportunity. If you think we got it wrong, you can file an objection with the court, and you can pursue it that way as well. And so then, after we publish that proposed determination, we'll come back down here again, and we'll hold another public meeting to kind of give you an overview of what that proposed determination looks like, answer any questions you have from there. And then we'll continue with objection resolution, which objection resolution can take several years. It can be a time-consuming process. But once all those objections to the proposed determination are resolved, kind of like we did with the list of unclaimed rights, we'll petition the court to issue a decree on that proposed determination. Okay, so then all those water rights will be decreed as described in the proposed determination or the settlements of objections or whatever, you know. So then they'll be decreed at that time. So I know that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot to take in. Hopefully I didn't go over it too quickly, because it's, yeah, I mean, we're still learning about this stuff all the time. So are there any questions at that point? Before next, I'll talk about the anticipated timelines and frequently asked questions. If you have questions about the actual process, I'm happy to answer them now. No? Okay. Yes, sir.
So if you have water stored on your property and you have not filed on that water, for an example, we have terraces on most of our farmland, and like right now they're full of water. So could in all this litigation thing that happens, could someone come in and say you do not have the right to store that water on your property without having some kind of a filing for it?
So the question was, if he has water stored on his property, can somebody come to him and say you don't have a right to store that water? And the answer is potentially yes. If it's okay with you, I'm happy to answer general questions. We're going to stick around after the meeting to be available and talk about specific cases like that. So if you don't mind, we'll meet with you afterward, okay? Yes, sir.
Yes, what happens if you got like 3 sources of water on one piece of property? Yeah, all 3? Okay,
so the question was, what if you have multiple sources of water on the same property? Do you need to file on all 3 of those? And the answer is it depends. I'm not just going to leave it there. So if those 3 sources are covered under one water right, then you just need the one claim. If they are described in different water rights, then you want to file a claim on all 3 of those rights.
One water right.
It depends on the documentation, how it was filed. We can absolutely look that up and tell you, this is how it's structured right now. This is historically how it was filed or how it came to be on the record, and we can help you with that from there. Is that fair? Okay. All right. So now we'll move on. So the anticipated timeline. So our plan is that on July 11th, we will mail out notice to file claims. And that is when we are telling you, hey, now your 90 days to file your claim starts today. Okay, and so you have 90 days to file during that time. And then I haven't mentioned yet, but there is a 30-day extension that is essentially an automatic extension. You just have to request it. So if you're not going to be able to get your claim in within those 90 days, you can submit to us in writing. It works either via email or there's a form that you can fill out to request an extension of time. And as long as you request that extension of time within that 90 days, you can get an additional 30 days to file that claim. However, you need to file that claim. It needs to accompany a water user claim at some point by the end of that extended deadline. Okay. So I explained that just to explain that July 11th is when we plan to send out notice to file claims. So then we'll have that 90-day period to file claims. plus the 30-day extension window that brings us to around October 12th, which is that's when all the claims should be in, and that's when we will start evaluating those claims and investigating those claims. Okay, and then so about a year from now, next June is when we plan to have the list of unclaimed rights public meeting. So we'll be back here in about a year to talk through that list of unclaimed rights. And we will publish the list of unclaimed rights in that time, and then there will be that 90-day objection period, and we'll hold a public meeting. And then we're hoping that by February 2026, we will have gone through that whole list of unclaimed rights phase and that whole third phase to the point where we can publish that proposed determination. And then at that time, again, that 90-day objection period, and then we'll be back out here again for our final public meeting. Okay, so that's, and then hopefully in 2026, and this is pending however many objections we get and how long those take to resolve, but hopefully by the end of 2026 we'll be able to get an interlocutory decree on that proposed determination. So now I'll take some time to talk through some common issues that we find and some common questions that we receive. So the first one, we see this all the time. Hey, this water right is on my property. It's describing my well. Why is my name not on this water right? And the short answer is the state engineer's office is not the official office of record for title. That's the county. The county recorder is the official office for that. It's important to know that a water user claim does not update title to a water right. Okay, you need to file what we call a report of water right conveyance. And again, theme of the night, if you encounter that, contact us. We can help you through that. Okay. And another thing to know is just because the water right may not be in your name, you can still file a claim on that water right. And if the title doesn't get resolved by the time we're done with this process, we may put our recommendation in the current owner's name to protect the water right and allow you to update title at a later date. Okay, so we'll help you through those title issues, but if you see a water right on your property or that you think you're the owner of and it doesn't have your name, just give us a call, we'll help you through it. Okay. Another thing, lapsed applications. So on here, I'll read what it says and then explain. It says, lapsed applications for small amounts of water can be reinstated. So small amount of water is actually defined in Utah code as a domestic, hooked up to your house, a domestic use up to a 1/4 acre of irrigation and up to 10 livestock. We see pretty frequently that an application to appropriate was filed for a small amount of water, and then timing on, the project was developed, but maybe the paperwork didn't quite get filed on time, so that application lapses. Now is your time, if that's the case, now is your time to file a water user claim. Again, I can't emphasize that enough. File a water user claim, and if the project is developed, you can file an affidavit of beneficial use to reinstate that application. Okay, and again, I sound like a broken record, but if that's the case, give us a call. We'll help you through it. Make sure I'm not missing anything. And with that reinstatement, if it's a lapsed application, then it is not a perfected water right, so you won't get a claim sent to you with the information for that. If you're a landowner, you'll get a blank water user claim, but we can help you through that process. And it's important to understand that, because once this process concludes, you may not be able to reinstate that application in the future. So now's your chance to do it. Okay. Moving on to a few more. So 30-day extensions. I've kind of touched on this. I will have a contact slide later on. And this slide and this whole video will be available on our website later. So you can always come back to it. But the 30-day extensions, like I said, you can file the form the extension request form, or you can just send me an email. That other email, that waterrights_adjudication@utah.gov, that's just forwarded to me, so I'm going to get it anyway. So whichever way you want to do it, but that extension needs to be requested in writing within that 90-day period, and then you still have to file a water user claim by the end of that extended deadline. Okay. Now, the scary part. We'll talk about this real quick. It doesn't have to be quick. This is where we usually get the most questions. But will I lose my water right? So if you have a water right that you are using as approved in conformance with the records, you have nothing to worry about. You just need to file your claim. Okay. But like I said, the spirit of the law was to prevent speculation on water rights and prevent people monopolizing water rights in an area. So if a water right has fallen out of use for a continuous period of 7 years or more, it may be subject to forfeiture. What I want you to take away from that is we want you to use your water rights. If you have a water right, use your water right. Okay. And there are some statutory protections and some special cases there that we evaluate as well. But bottom line is we want you to use your water right, and we want you to file a claim. Okay. And then individuals using water without a water right of record are required to submit a claim during the adjudication or risk being barred from future claims and use. And we've already kind of talked about that. So if you have a water right that you've been using and it's a pre-statutory right, now's your chance to get that on the record. Okay, and this is the process to do that. And we can help you out with that. So at this point, I'm going to put our contact information up here, and we'll open it up to questions, and then I'm going to walk through, and if anybody's satisfied with the information they've received, they can leave at this point, or I will walk through a little bit of a website tour to help you navigate that. So before I do that, I'll open it up for questions.
Can we get a sheet of that with the information on that?
I have some cards with my information on there. We didn't bring printouts for this, but I do have a card. I'm sure Mark has cards as well. So just to reintroduce everybody that's on there. So I'm Chase McDowell. I'm the Assistant State Engineer over adjudications. I'm the section manager over all the adjudications in the state. Mark is going to be doing a lot of the legwork. He's the regional engineer. He's going to be doing a lot of the legwork for this particular adjudication. So he's a great person to contact. And then we have Aspen Johnson. He's not here tonight, but he is our program manager. He does a lot of the tracking of the progress of the book and things like that. And then we have Skylar Bishop. He moved on me, but he's back in the back. And he specializes in taking these claims, evaluating them, and putting together a state engineer's recommendation. So yeah, any of the people on here are great people to contact if you have, as we work through this process. So are there any other questions at this point?
We are happy to put this back up at the end if you want to go take a close photo.
Yeah.
Seeing somebody doing that. Again, we apologize for the smaller screen. We'll make sure everyone has this contact info if they so desire before the end of the time.
Yeah, so I do have a fancy schmancy website tour slide, and then we'll put this back up while we answer questions and everything. So if there aren't, yes, sir.
If we're on the Eastland water system, the Eastland well, do we need a service district?
Yeah.
Eastland Special Service District, so that falls under a municipality. We will work with them directly.
We don't need to file a claim for.
Not if that's your only source of water.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So I know this will take about a year, but you'll move on to other areas in the area. Is that right? Like in the landing area?
I'm not exactly sure where we'll go next, but we have adjudications. So the question was, after we're done with Eastland, are we going to come over to Blanding? Where are we going to go? I don't have that answer right now. We do have active adjudications all over the state. So we're working mainly up in the Salt Lake area, in Salt Lake and Provo. But eventually all these areas will be adjudicated.
But if you do them all at once, it's not, we're all waiting until you get here, there'll be other places going at the same time.
So the question was, are they all occurring at once? So we have several occurring at the same time, and we may initiate or commence another subdivision in this, general area within the next year or two. It may happen. And the gentleman's question before that, since I didn't repeat it, he was asking if he gets water from a special service district from the Eastland well, does he need to file a claim? The answer is no. If your only source of water is from a municipality and you're paying that municipality for that water, and that's your only source, we will work with the municipality to adjudicate their water rights. Okay? Yes, sir.
How did the boundary get drawn, and why is it labeled as Grant County? I'm confused on that.
So the question is, how did the boundary get drawn, and why does it say Grant County? It's a good question. I didn't draw it. I'm not really sure.
I can.
Yeah. Mark has the floor.
So let me talk a little bit about the history. We have been adjudicating in the southeastern part of the state for a long time. We did Carbon and Emory County back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s. We moved into Grand County. We just finished the Moab Valley. So we started the Moab Valley in 2018. We took about 5 years to get through Moab. So Grand County is pretty much all done except a little sliver by LaSalle. And then we had the Navajo settlement. And so we've been doing the Navajo settlement the last couple of years. We just finished it. So the only thing we have left is San Juan County. And initially we were going to go down and work just above the Navajo Nation in the 09-2 area. But the BLM, most of it's BLM land. And the BLM said, hey, we don't have the staff to really put towards making sure all the BLM claims were addressed. So we moved up to the Eastland area and drew the boundaries to try to exclude as much federal property as possible so that we could just work with the private individuals. Eventually, we're going to have to go back and hit all of the other areas in San Juan County. We used to tell the feds, we'll come back and do you guys later. But when we did the Navajo adjudication, we joined the federal government and said, we're going to do you the same time we do everybody else. So when we did Moab, we told the federal government to be patient, we'll get to you. So we're actually going back to the Moab area right now and picking up the federal claims. But hopefully, as we go through San Juan County, we can do them all at once. So that's kind of how we end up in Eastland. Where we go next kind of depends on how much we can engage the BLM in getting them, actively engaged in the process.
And then, sorry, sir, just to touch a little more on that, just in a general sense, when we do draw these boundaries, we base it on, potentially, the main consideration is hydrologic areas, right? We're looking at watersheds, we're looking at what makes sense to draw this boundary based on the hydrology, and we don't want to cut a system in half because then we only get half the picture when we're trying to adjudicate and bring clarity to it, right? But we can also look at service areas for municipalities or irrigation companies and things like that. So I guess the general answer is we just try to make it make sense for whatever area we're in.
Let me add one more point. The hardest areas to do in San Juan County are going to be the Blanding, Monticello area and LaSalle, because there's a lot of water rights. There's a lot of old decrees. It's very complex. The Eastland area, relatively simple. Mostly applications to appropriate, mostly groundwater wells. We want to get our foot in the door, dip our toes in the water, so to speak, in a relatively easier area than trying to tackle Monticello right off the bat.
Okay, I saw a few hands. Sorry, sir, I think I saw his first.
I put the outline on this, but
you say when we got to prove we've been using this water right or lose it, does that go for the federal government too? How are they proving that the amount of water they're using?
So we evaluate those as well, and some of those. So, there's a lot to unpack with that question. It's a great question. So let's repeat it first. So he asked if we evaluate the federal government the same as, as a private water user that has to prove that they've been using their water. Do we do the same evaluation with the federal government?
The short answer is yes. We go out and look at it. And most of the BM claims are just simply livestock watering claims. So we'll go out and look and say, hey, do you have livestock on the land, or are you using water for the livestock? There's not very many other claims that the BLM submits other than livestock.
What about Park Service?
Park Service is a little different because typically that's a federal reserved water right. So with arches and natural bridges, we actually did a settlement with them that created a federal reserved right.
And just to remind you, I touched on that earlier, but I only put it through the lens of like an Indian reservation. So when the federal government sets land aside for a national park or something like that, the Winters Doctrine, that court case said that when that happens, it is implied that a sufficient amount of water for the beneficial uses is also set aside. And so it's usually through a settlement that those are defined and evaluated.
Do they have to prove what they need is sufficient for that park?
Yes, that's the whole point of the settlement is negotiations to come to that number. And talking about the BLM and the Forest Service with these historical stock watering claims, we require them to provide evidence of, especially if it's a diligence claim, like a pre-statutory claim, we require them to provide evidence. Okay, what were you using in pre-statutory times? And if you're using more than that now, you need to require more water. So they are evaluated the same way.
And so arches has already been done, natural bridges has already been done, Hoban Weep has already been done, Navajo's been done.
Bears Ears National Monument?
Bears Ears has not been done. And we've purposely stayed away from Bears Ears for right now.
Okay, and I'm going to go to this gentleman because he's been skipped a few times. So
I got two questions. So the DNR office in Moab, does that have a water rights division too, so we can talk to them?
They don't.
The question was, is there a water rights office in Moab? No, the closest is Mark's office in Price.
We will be down here about every week.
Is it the same office as DWR?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the second one is for the water rights deal, is it separate from underground water compared to surface water when it rains? Those stock ponds and stuff?
I'm not sure I understand the question. You said, is it different with surface and underground?
Dry year the last 3 years and stock ponds didn't hold any water. Would that throw off usage?
So I alluded to it earlier that there are some protections against forfeiture there are certain ones specifically outlined in statute, and one of those protections is that a water right could be protected from claims of forfeiture during years where the source did not provide a full supply for that use. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay, you need to add? Feel good about that?
And is there a size of stock water ponds that don't require a right? Isn't there a certain size that you do not have to claim on?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I don't know what the size limits are there. Unless Mark.
There is a number
Yes.
small enough where it's a non-issue.
Yes.
Now, ponds are a unique animal. We've done ponds 1,000 different ways through the year. Gary's question about what if you just have, a berm that's preventing erosion?
Terraces or what?
Yeah, terraces. Typically, you don't need a water right for that. If you're just doing terracing for erosion control, you don't need a water right. So specifically, it would be dedicated stock watering ponds is what you'd want a water right on.
Yes, and if you have a depression in your property that accumulates water that your cows drink out of, we're not going to come say you have to fill in this depression because you don't have a water right for it. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to know, I'm kind of confused here. You're saying 7 years, if it hasn't been used for 7 or more years. Doesn't the state law say 15 years?
Okay, so the question is, we mentioned that if you don't use a water right for a period of 7 years, that it's subject to forfeiture, and you asked, isn't it 15? So there's a section of statute that talks about the 15 years, and Mike can correct me if I say this incorrectly, but it essentially says that a water right is only subject to forfeiture if an adjudicated proceeding commences within 15 years since the last period of non-use of that 7 years. It's confusing to read, but that's in essence what it says. So that's where the 15 years comes in.
Can I add something?
Yes, absolutely.
So in the Moab area, we found a lot of people who had water rights. Not a lot, but we found a few people who had water rights and they were not using them. And they said, hey, we still want to save these rights. What do we need to do? And there's a couple ways you can save rights that are in jeopardy of forfeiture. One is simply put them back to use. So a couple people said, hey, we're not using this well right now, but we want to save this right. Can we just turn it on, put it back to use? You bet. Yep, just put it back to use. There's some other statutory ways to invoke protections against forfeiture. One's filing a change application. One's filing a non-use application. So there's a couple other things you can do. So if you're in that situation, come talk to us. We can help you work through it. Let me tell you my personal opinion as a regional engineer. We want to help you save your water rights. Okay, that's what I feel like our job is to get out here and help you preserve your water rights. We want to get the abandoned water rights off the records. But if you have a water right and you want to use it and you want to preserve it, we're here to help you.
Yes, sir.
What kind of complications arise if, I've seen several private individuals have water rights or wells, but they're located within BLM land. Does that cause problems?
Okay, so the question is, if somebody has a well that's located on BLM land, are there complications? And you're not right that I say this, but it kind of depends. There are, just because a well is not on your property does not mean that you don't have a legal right to divert water from that well, is kind of the short answer. So there could be cases where there's BLM land and I have a well that is on that land and I have a water right to divert water from that well. And so that's legally protected. I have the right to divert out of that well. Yes, sir.
Mark, I spoke to you about the Water Conservancy having the 24,000 acre feet of water.
Yep.
And there's been questions about if they don't use that, then there's a possibility that the state will take it back. Is any of these water rights that we're all claiming now, is that a part of the beneficial use of those 24,000?
Okay, so the San Juan County Water Conservancy District holds some big rights that were approved many, many years ago, but have never been perfected. So the right that you're talking about, the 24,000 acre foot right, was actually moved to Green River for that proposed nuclear plant. And it's in an approved status, so it's never been perfected. So this court action doesn't include approved water rights. So if you have a recent water right that you applied for, let's say last year you came into our office and you applied for a water right and you got approved, but you've not perfected it yet, you're not going to be included in this adjudication because you're still working through developing it. So if you have a recent water right, you're okay. You don't have to worry about this adjudication. Only if your water right has been perfected are you going to be included in the adjudication.
Thank you. All right, I think his was up first.
Question, sorry, but so as a landowner, how would you go to try to find any unused water rights you could find on your property or prior owner Would that be with the county recorder? Would that be with your rights office? How would a person go about trying to find every water right tied to his land or could possibly be claimed?
Okay, so the question was, how does an individual find all the water rights that are on their property? I can speak to our office. So, and with this website tour, I'm going to show you how to get on our website and pull up a map, find your property, and find a point of diversion if it's on your property. Keep in mind that is only water rights that are of record that will appear on our website. There may be records in the county that you may be able to find, but I would caution you that, you know, if you go and find evidence that there was a water right that existed on your property from 1940 and you had no knowledge of it and it hasn't been used, that's going to be a tough sell, you know. So, all right.
Can I add one thing to that too? So in Moab, we had a instance out in Chase's presentation. And let me describe what we had in Moab. Somebody came to us in Moab and said, "Hey, I have this old homestead. It was established in the late 1800s. It's got a spring on it." And we looked at it with him and it didn't have a water right. Well, he was able to grandfather it into the system and get a water right as a diligence claim. So he filed a diligence claim, or he filed a water user's claim based on a diligence claim, meaning that homestead was established before 1903. So it's possible that somewhere out in the Eastland area, there's an old homestead that's been using a spring for forever that's never been made a record. If that's the case, talk to us and we can help you get a new diligence claim filing to cover that.
Yes, and just to caveat on that, it's a diligence claim is meant to bring pre-statutory use on record that has been diligently used. And so we're not really contradicting each other. It's just, that's why so many times my answer is it depends, and I promise it annoys me as much as it does you.
Right. What Chase is talking about, and this applied in the Moab area, is that gentleman still was using the spring. He hadn't abandoned it. It was still in use and had been clear from when it was originally homesteaded.
Okay, back here.
Just a quick question. So everyone in the city of Monticello proper will receive a summons, all the homeowners, et cetera, et cetera?
Not for this subdivision. When an adjudication is commenced in Monticello, then yes. It'll be just like with this subdivision.
But it'll just be the city of Monticello instead of Eastland.
Yes, and so the question was, will everybody in Monticello receive a summons? And so when you draw that boundary, everybody within every landowner and water right owner of record will receive a summons. But if you're outside that boundary, or if you don't own property or a water right within that boundary, you will not receive the summons.
Can I talk to you about? So the Monticello area is going to be tough. There's some old decrees in the Monticello area on Berger and Spring Creek and North Creek and South Creek. And a lot of those old decrees have never had the title updated. We just met with somebody last week on Spring Creek, and they purchased the property, and it's still in the name of Peter Bailey, who was the 1918 guy who got it in the decree. So as we're down here doing this Eastland stuff, if you are living in Monticello, grab us and say, "Hey, I think I've got an old decreed water right in the Monticello area that I need to get updated." And we can help show you how to do that.
I have a unique situation. So my grandfather built a house here in town in 1952, and he built it over a spring. So I have 2 huge ponds in my yard, and I have to deal with 500,000 gallons of water a year. And it's in the ponds in my front yard, right on Main Street, for heaven's sake. And that's why I was curious. Are you going to have to, is every homeowner going to get a summons that resides in the city of Monticello?
Yes.
When we commence that subdivision, yes.
Yeah.
All right, and then sir.
Just kind of a hypothetical question, how to proceed. Say somebody's got a seismograph hole that they've been water and livestock out of for the last, 50, 60 years now since those were drilled. What's the best way to proceed? You know, it's never been filed on. Where should those, people proceed? Should they apply for a water right now or hope you don't see it? Or what's one way to start that scenario?
So it's water that's just naturally emanating and there's.
It's an old drill well.
Oh, okay.
You can just,
There's a drilled well by a seismograph.
yeah, just come get with us.
Yeah.
We'll help you file a new application to appropriate.
Yes.
Yeah, the area is still open to appropriation, so you can get a new water right application.
Yes.
We can walk you right through that process.
And that's
Oh, mine are good. My neighbor.
hypothetically, yeah. No, I
I
appreciate that. All right, and that's, it's kind of it's nice to have Mark here as well because we both work for the Division of Water Rights, but in almost different worlds, you know, so he's going to be assisting with the adjudication process, but there's a lot of things that his regional office does that we don't do, just by nature of our different programs. Yes, sir.
So while this is going on, what happens if you're planning on drilling a new well in the next couple of years? How would that affect stuff?
So that would be something through the regional office.
File a new application with them.
Yes. Yep. So, and the question was, what if you're planning on drilling a new well sometime soon? The answer is get with the regional office, and that window to file new applications to appropriate. Well, actually, no, just diligence claim. Sorry. Yeah, you'll be fine to file a new application to appropriate. I'm getting concepts mixed up in my head, so contact the regional office. All right, other questions? Okay, well, if there are no more, then I'm gonna make sure my chair's behind me, and we'll walk through this website tour. And I should have said this starting this meeting out, but if at any time you've got other obligations or whatever, you're not gonna hurt my feelings at all. If you need to head out.
So we do appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Need to go.
Okay, so we'll do a quick walkthrough of the website. So this is apparently my second screen died. Hold on. Yes, or if it's easier, you can take my card right here if you'd like.
Mark still some else on?
It doesn't, but he has a card right here. You know what? Here.
Thank you.
Oops.
Real quick with it. I just couldn't get anything that I could read from back there.
Let's do that.
Thank you for your help, sir. Yeah. You don't want to go for a second, get your guy and my son. So that's not visible. I get it. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you get it, sir?
I had it on.
All right. Okay. Thank you. All right, and then. Yes, just give me 1 second. All right, and I understand that others want to get pictures of this. I'll leave it up for a few more seconds, but then I'm going to dive into the website tour and walk through that, and then we'll put this slide back up while we answer other questions. Okay?
You have a card.
I've got cards right up here, yeah, and I know Mark brought some as well, so he'll be able to provide you with those. But okay, we're gonna walk through the website tour here for a second. So, all right, this is the home screen of our website. Our website is www.waterrights.utah.gov. Okay, and it's waterrights.utah.gov. And it looks like I don't have it on this last slide, but I will add it. Okay, so if you go to that website, waterrights.utah.gov, it will bring you up to this page. Probably the easiest way to find your property and search for water rights is scroll down a little bit here and go to the map search. Okay, so we click the map search, and you all will probably know where your property is, but I'm going to turn on this adjudication books over on the right-hand side. You probably can't see my cursor again. I apologize for the small screen, but I'm going to click on this adjudication books. And just to help me out here, I'll do a little something on that filter. But so we'll zoom in down here. Wrong area. 09. Okay. So here's the Eastland Subdivision, okay? So if we zoom in, we'll just we'll turn on points of diversion, and we'll find this one right here. So if I click into this, it gives me a little summary of that water right. And so you can zoom in, you can find your property here, and then click into this, and if you see that 09-600 is the water right number, and that has a link right there. So you can click that, and it's going to open the water rights database view of that water right. Okay? So you can scroll down, you can see owner information, you can see general information about the right, different dates, point of diversion, water uses, and even though we just came from the map, you can come over here and click View Map, and it will show you all of that information on the map. So it'll show you the point of diversion, which is that red square, and then the place of use, which is this green shaded area. Okay? Another thing you can do is click this Scan Documents tab. Can everybody see that? So there's Home Display, and then there's Scan Documents. And this will pull up, so I told you, we have a file in Salt Lake that has all the documents that we have access to related to this water right. And we scan them all in so you can pull them up online. So these will show all the documents that we have on our records back in Salt Lake. The first thing I like to do is sort it by date. So you click that, it sorts it by date. Some of them don't have dates indexed in there, but then you can click through and look at all of these different documents. Okay, if you want, you can do a PDF of all of the documents. If I click that, it brings up another window, takes a little time to load, but it will provide me with a link where I click and it just gives me all the documents strung together, and I can just scroll through and read them all. Okay, so
is that for a single person or for generally?
This is for a single water right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I clicked this View PDF. So again, to show you what I did, I went to the map, I zoomed in, I found a water right, I clicked it, I clicked the link to get to the home display on the water rights database, go to Scan Documents, and then I clicked PDF of all docs. And then that brings up this page. When you click View PDF, that brings you here, and you can scroll through and you can see all the historical documents on our records. Okay? So that's really handy, important to know. Another thing you'll see, because we are in an active subdivision here, so you see the water right number here, display and refresh, that's just to enter and do a search. Right next to that is file a water user claim. So these water user claims, and I guess I didn't cover it earlier, but you can email these to us, you can mail them to us, you can bring them into our office. However we get them, we don't really care. Just get them to us. Okay. So if you click this file a water user's claim, it opens this wizard that walks you through how to fill one of these out. And so if you come in and your ownership information is not on our database, then you can click this box here on the first one that says claimant not of record. All that means is title has not been updated to your name, if that is your water right. So you click that, you can enter your information, or if it is correct, great. You click the bottom box and then go next. And it says phone number is required. So we want you to put a phone number in and then next. And that really is helpful because we want to work with you through this process. So please give us some way to contact you. And then after you do that, it gives you a preview of what your water user claim might look like. So you can scroll through and look through that. And then if something needs to be changed, you can click through these next buttons at the bottom and you can change whatever aspects are on there. And it'll walk you through each of those steps. And even still, even though we have this wizard, you can call our office, you can call one of us, and we will talk on the phone. We will talk you through this wizard and try to help you through it. So it's correct. Yes, sir.
Is this something that we can do now, or do we need to wait until you mail us the stuff you want?
So,
what would be your preference?
I don't know why you wouldn't be able to file it now because it's on the website, but
It's cleaner if you do it during the 90-day filing period.
Okay.
Is that
Yes.
looking, okay, this is when the claim should be coming in.
yes,
It's less likely to get missed. Not that it would anyway, but just.
yeah,
cleanliness purposes.
yeah. I think it's preferred that you file during that 90-day window. But I appreciate the eagerness. Yes, sir.
Does your map show subsurface and surface rights?
Yes.
Or is there?
It does. Yes. So the question was, does the map show surface and underground rights? Yes, it does. And this area, there's not a ton of claims. Let me go somewhere that's a little bit more dense. We'll go up in the Provo area. So up here, you see how many water rights are of record up here. This is the Heber Valley. So there's all these red ones are wells, or not necessarily wells, but underground points of diversion. And then you have these dark blue ones, those are surface diversions. You have some light blue ones that are springs. You have some of these that are stacked up and have numbers on them. That just means there are two water right numbers kind of plotting on top of each other. Okay. So anyway, our map is a very, very valuable tool. I recommend you go in and look at it as you're getting your water user claims together. So yeah, that wizard will help you fill out your water user's claim, or like I said, if it's easier, in my mind, this might be easier. When we send you the claim, you can fill it out. You don't have to mess with, the wizard and whether it bugs out or you're not exactly sure what it's asking. You can just, if you receive one that has information filled in and it needs to be updated, you can cross out whatever it is, write in whatever you would like it to be, and send it back to us. So you can do it that way as well. So let me look at my little, make sure I'm covering everything. Okay, so the adjudication page. All right. So I showed you how to find your water right and how to navigate the pages, find the scanned documents. If you click this Division of Water Rights logo, it'll take you back to the home page. If you're just curious about maybe not your property or your water right specifically, you can look at the adjudication page. So you can go up here to the top left, go programs, scroll down to adjudication, go over to active adjudications, click into that, and you see these are all the active adjudications that we're currently working on. Yours right here, Eastland Subdivision. You can click the map. You can tell we're all a bunch of map nerds up at Water Rights because everything points to a map. And see, now it pulls up all the water rights in here with the boundary. Maybe just to be proactive, you may be wondering about this one. This may be, my guess is that this is a water right that has multiple points of diversion. One of them plots in, one of them plots out.
Yeah.
So, but I'll close that. So here, back to this active adjudications page, you can go over and click on the subdivision number, and this will pull up all of the claims that are in this area. So you can look at them this way as well. Okay. So that's the active adjudications page. And I can't emphasize this enough. I know we're throwing a lot at you. Call us. I promise we're somewhat helpful. I promise. And we try to help as best we can. You know, we really do want to help. And then if you do know your water right number, you can go to this adjudication progress page. You can go in and find your water right number. You can click on it. That's going to take you to the water rights database. You can look at all the information there. Also from this page, if that's your water right, you can map it or you can file a claim. You click this, it goes back to that water user claim form. We try to make it as easy as we can. And so I think I've covered everything that I want to cover there. So I'm going to pull this, bring this back up, put our contact information on there, and then we'll probably end the recording and the live stream at this point. Just with the reminder, please file a claim, please contact us. We want to work with you. And then we'll be available, all of our staff will be available to answer questions for those of you that are left. Okay, thank you. Real quick, sorry, actually, stop. Are there questions online?
There were no questions online.
Perfect. All right.
And if you have questions, you want to stick around for a few minutes and look it up with us, you want to stick around.